And welcome to this week's episode of Roll of 24 for the week of 26th February to the 22nd of February, 2026. And so this week, once again, it's going to be very eclectic on the arrangement of the 24 different photographs. One of the very first ones I'm going to talk about is this price tag that I took a picture of down at a store. Interesting story behind that. Over at a park in Belton, took a picture of this gentleman and other people, and what's interesting is this person actually comes alive. And of course, we finally got some wildlife in here, got some pictures of some ducks. Another trip down to a doggy park where Charlie got to meet several new dogs. This week's very purposeful picture, which is of a BNSF train with a very shallow depth of field. Charlie got his flying wings this week. He had very fun. We'll show you while he's out flying. And then we'll end up with, we were only successful in getting one astro shot this week because the night sky, while not overly cloudy, we're entering a full moon. And thus, it's kind of hard to take deep space astro when you have a full moon approaching. So this image I'm starting off with this week in the Roll of 24, there's a major retail department store that has a section in it that's called Last Act. It's where, after this, who knows where these clothes end up going. So the lovely bride was browsing through the different items, and she came across this and called me over because I just love how much money you are actually saving on this item that is on or in the Last Act section. So it retailed for $89.50. It was on sale for $89.50, and you saved 0%. Once again, it's just too funny. And here is the first of several pictures for my purposeful picture this week. I set up about 15 feet off the railroad tracks of the BNSF rail line that runs through my town. This is around 8:30, 8:45. There's a train then, and then one about 8 hours later. So Charlie and I got there early, got set up, sat down on a stool, and I had both the Canon R5 Mark II and the Canon R6 Mark II both set to a high frame rate. One had the Canon 50mm f1.2, and the other one had the Canon RF 85 1.2, because I was going for a shallow depth of field. So I would start shooting pictures, and as soon as the buffer got filled on one, I'd place that one to the side, pick up the other one, and continue shooting. As I mentioned, this week's purposeful picture is of a train, and the purpose behind this image was a shallow depth of field, and so I used a 1.2, and I focused right here on the front of the train, and as you'll see better in the video, how the terrain in front and all the way down there, everything is out of focus, which was the purpose behind this challenge, which was again a shallow depth of field. And then my bonus challenge was use f1.4 below, and so I used two lenses. I used a Canon S50 and a Canon 85, because they could both go down to 1.2. And here is the final edited version of the BNSF train. This train was traveling about 25-30 miles an hour. I didn't realize it came through town that fast, but I just really liked how the front of the engine and just a little bit on the right hand side as you look at it is nice, sharp, clear, and the foreground, the trees on the left and right, are blurred out because of the shallow depth of field. But then also in this photo, what I liked about it is you can still see faintly the length of the train all the way down the rails. So once again, my main thought process was just capturing the engine as it approached along the rails, and I was probably about 3 feet up off the ground from sitting on the stool to camera level. But as the train passed and kept on going, I reached down and grabbed another camera, and still using the high rate of speed feature inside the camera, I started taking pictures of the rail cars as they passed. A lot of them had graffiti and other whatnots. These two did not. I just liked how the angle of the sun reflected and how I was able to compose this image. I've started to get in a habit on some of my photographs, especially my purposeful photographs, to do what I call a proof of presence. So after the train had cleared and everything was done right before I packed up, I took a picture of myself with the rails, and there's a bridge roadway right above me. But I'm starting to incorporate more proof of presence if anybody ever comes back and says that that was an AI generated image. So, what's interesting about this is Messier 105 or M105 or NGC 3379. What's interesting is it just doesn't have a common name. It's just what it's known for. This is an elliptical galaxy. It's between 32 to 36.6 million light years away from Earth. So once again, it's just interesting that I can capture something so far away from my very backyard. It's an equatorial. It's in the equatorial constellation of Leo, and it is one of the largest elliptical galaxies that is not part of the Virgo cluster. I found that very interesting. And one last thing of interesting note is that it is believed that it's within M105 is a known black hole where there's just a void in space. So that's pretty interesting. So on this day, I headed over to a park over in the city of Belton, between where I live and the city of Temple, a larger community. Anyways, I knew that they had some ducks down here from a previous visit. And this was the very first photo. You always try, or at least I try, well, let's get one in the bag before we start wandering around the park. And so this was of a gentleman sitting on a bench, and I just liked the contrast of the colors between his fanny pack and his shirt. And then the picture came alive. So, as Charlie and I were slowly walking our way through the park, he came upon this young man throwing a net into the water. And come to find out, he was trying to catch minnows and stuff. He's got a small bucket you can see down there at the 5 o'clock position on the frame. And so I took the pictures, thought they were, they're okay. And then I thought, you know what? Let's try and do something. Let's take this into Photoshop and see if we can combine these three images into one final image, which I thought turned out pretty good. I did take out his left hand because it didn't come out, but I did leave his three right arms in there to demonstrate or show motion. One of the nice things about this park over there in Belton is they have a lot of ducks, and I'm not saying they're domesticated, but because so many people use this park and the walking path is but 15 feet away from the water's edge, the ducks are fairly used to humans and dogs, because even when Charlie ran down towards the water's edge, the ducks did not run away like they did out there at Stillhouse Wildlife Management Area. So I caught these three going from right to left, and they turned out pretty good. I got down a little low, couldn't get down to the water's edge. And so after taking the picture of them, I just sat there and looked around, and there was this one duck right here who was going underneath and then getting up on their, I don't know, their butt inside the water and flapping their wings. Probably took about 15 pictures. A lot of them were blurry and fuzzy, but this one turned out, I thought, okay. After finishing up the ducks, Charlie and I were just basically moseying along the path, and I was taking people pictures, and didn't realize until later when I was actually, after downloading and editing the pictures, that this is a picture of a person taking a picture of the two girls who were walking by, looks like towards the parking lot. But now this is kind of creepy in a sense, because why is he taking a picture of them? So the camera I was using this day, when you just push the record button, it takes whatever's been saved on profile C3, and evidently I have slow motion, or 60 frames per second, and didn't realize that. So this is, I did not have to slow this down in post-processing. This is how I recorded it. And so this young man, he'd been going back and forth, so he would pass by me, and about 8 to 12 minutes later, he would come back. And then he'd do it again and do it again. So I was like, Charlie and I just stayed underneath the bridge, stayed in some shadows, and we just waited. Had to wait about 7-8 minutes. And then sure enough, here he came slowly back. And I thought this angle going around these curves was pretty cool. So after that young man passed by, still having it in the record mode, Charlie and I were still underneath the bridge, zoomed out a little bit further, and captured this gentleman slowly doing his exercises, just walking along, listened to his phone, and I thought this turned out pretty good actually in slow motion with the swaying of his arms. So at this point, Charlie was pretty content, and he had finally just laid down next to my feet, panting from our walk around the park. So with him just laying down, I scanned the area, and saw this gentleman walk out to this basketball court, doing a little one-on-one with himself. And at one point, he did see me, but he just kept on bouncing his ball. And once again, I did not realize I had this on slow motion when I was doing this recording. And in the end, I liked it. He does pretty good. And then the lady slowly walking through the parking lot up there. So it was a pretty good image, and so I included it in this week's Roll Up 24. So after finishing up over here at the park, I had to go over to the county tax assessor's office and finished my business up there pretty quick. And right behind there, it leads to this stream that runs through. It's called Little Nolan Creek. And as I was walking down there, there was a gentleman out there fishing. And in another scene here shortly, you're going to see there was a blue heron that was just standing about 10 feet behind him. And I went to go, saw him, went back to the car, grabbed the camera up, took this image of him from probably about 400 or 500 feet away. And then Charlie and I slowly progressed down over into the area where he was fishing. So in that video segment, he did not see me filming him at that time, but Charlie and I worked our way around. Charlie actually jumped in the stream a little bit, wallowed around, had some fun drinking up some of the pond water, river water. Anyway, so I took a bunch of scenes and photos of the gentleman, and I did like this one, and so of course I processed it and included it here. As I said, right behind that fisherman was this blue heron right here. And we were stealthily moving up until I decided to drop the leash handle on Charlie. And when that clattered down to the ground, the blue heron took off and was flying from left to right over to these trees, probably a couple 100 feet away. And quickly forgetting about Charlie's leash, because he basically just sat down, whipped the camera up and just started taking pictures. And this is one of those opportunities where I'm glad I'd already preset everything. I knew I was going to go at 1-800 or faster, and so everything was set, so all I had to do was pull the button. After walking down the shore from, once again, from the fisherman's position over to the right, uh, took some more pictures of the blue heron, but it never did take flight again, so kind of boring pictures. But there was this duck down there, and it just really had an interesting brown. I have no idea what kind of duck this is, but let's just say the water in this area doesn't look very clean. It wasn't very clear. Now, the sun was reflecting on it, and so I think that's why there's so much yellow inside the water here. So in that last image, like I said, the water was all yellowish and stuff, but this is probably only about 20 feet further upstream from where that last duck was at. And I believe these are mallards. And I just really liked, I wasn't really that high up, but I guess I was high enough up to capture the reflection of the duck on the left. And I just liked how that really looked. And I liked their beat orientation. I was trying to get them at one point where they were at making a heart. Almost was successful, but you can see it would have been great if I'd gotten a double heart reflection. But I only got half on the left-hand side. The other duck didn't want to cooperate very well. And here are Charlie and I the next day. We went out to the RC aircraft landing field, or airfield, over near Union Grove Park, out there at the Corps of Engineers at Stillhouse Lake. And Charlie got his pilot license for this day to fly this type of aircraft. And here is Charlie in his first flights. So here's Charlie in the air, learning how to maneuver. He started off rather slowly, and then he really decided to put the throttle forward and did some climbs, some banks, and overall it's very interesting. Very, very difficult to track these planes. One, because of their small size. I think they're 1/70 scale models, or close to it. And they move really fast. This is a electric powered one, gas powered. So this short clip that you've just been watching here and ends in a second, this is taken from over 15 minutes of shooting. I added a few sound effects here to make the video a little more interesting. So here you see Charlie has transitioned over from that little Piper Cub style aircraft over here. He is now learning his fighter jet maneuver. And once again, I've added some sound effects to make it a little bit more exciting to listen and watch. And here Charlie is meeting Suki. I think that's how you say it. Suki. It was a new dog at the dog park this morning. Young couple had her. And she and Charlie hit it off pretty good. Charlie is getting better playing with dogs instead of just sitting underneath the other human's feet while the other dogs have fun. Anyways, he met this dog and started having fun. Here's a short video. The person over on the right-hand side in the top is the owner. The husband's somewhere further off to the right. And so one of the things I do when I go out to the dog park, and I do remember to bring a camera with me, and if I film, or like in this case, this dog, well, kind of being a little overly friendly with Charlie there. Anyways, I think I shot maybe about 40, 50 frames that turned out any good. And anyways, I used Lightroom, set up a link, and I just title these people's names, whatever their dog is, inside my phone, and then I create a link within Lightroom, and I send it off to them, and they're able to download the pictures. So this dog here, her name is Insatiable. I'd hate to have to spell that every time I went to the vets. But this is a dog that Charlie has now known for about 3 or 4 weeks. This is, I think, the 4th time they've interacted at the park, which is good because Charlie is more up front, goes up, checks out who they are, and then romps around and has fun inside the park. So they do have the large dog and small dog areas separated. The small dog area is for 30 and under. The large dog is for 30 and over. Charlie's in about 34-pound area and gaining. So for the last couple weeks, he's been introduced to the large dog area. This was another new dog that we found that day, or didn't find, but was at the park. No idea what its name is, but I just love this picture with the tongue sticking out. So I'm out there about an hour, hour and a half. And at this point, I think I was laying down on the ground trying to get some action shots. I'm a little elevated on a slight incline going up to the bench. And basically, a lot of times the dogs are just walking around. And then once in a while, they'll all get a spurt of energy, which Charlie's chasing after somebody here. And that's when I try and catch the action shots. And so here's that Suki, S-U-K-I, or Suri, S-U-R-I, Charlie and Insatiable. And once again, I was really trying to focus after a period of time on this dog because I'd already talked to the young couple, gotten the husband's phone number so that I could send them the Lightroom link later so that they could download the JPEGs how they want and print them up, do whatever they want with them. But captured a lot of them. Very exciting, hard sometimes to follow. This sand pit's probably about 50 feet in front of me, and they enjoyed going over there and digging for a little bit, and then they'd break up, and then they'd start chasing each other. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to practice using the Final Cut Pro that I use to put these videos together, and I'm trying to figure out this picture-in-picture process. And so I'd taken that picture. And then here's Charlie again in action. I just love how his front paws, how the right one is bent forward and the other one's leading. And I just love how his ears flop in the breeze when he's charging forward. And here again is Suri in motion with Charlie. And one of the things Charlie likes to do is bite the other people's muzzles. And they don't put up with it. And as you can see here, look, you bite me, I'm just going to take you down. There was no harm or anything. This was probably right in front of me. And they just kept on rolling around. It's just good that Charlie's meeting these dogs, interacting in a proper and appropriate manner, and getting some good exercise out here at the dog park. This is roll of 24, and this is the 24th frame. And thanks again for watching this episode of Roll of 24. Once again, a very eclectic series of photographs. And if you did enjoy this, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. And have a great day.